Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I've got an opportunity to work on a reel I've never worked on before. So we'll make a video out of this one. It's an oldie but a goodie. I'm interested to find out whose it is. This is a quality product of Japan, so it's probably a trade reel. The name on the reel is Match. It says Match 966. And it has a ball bearing, assuming it's under here. But the construction looks very much like compact reels and some of the others. Just not familiar with it. It's running. It's got that old time kind of click-clack going on. If you take the clicker off, got a little bit of a whirl going on. That's not unusual for these reels. And let's just check the features and functions before we do it. The bail works. So we're just going to take this apart. We're going to learn from it. Even the knob squeaks. We're going to learn from it. We're going to clean out the old dirt and debris, put in some new fresh greases and oils, and well, hopefully we'll get this one going. This reel belongs to Rusty, and well, it should fish for a long time to come. Well, you've seen we've removed the handle. You did that by screwing it in the opposite direction of the way that it collects the line. In this case, this handle cannot be changed over to the other side, but in some reels they can. Now, as I say that, I'm looking quickly. This does have a removable side plate here, so it should be an interesting architecture underneath. We took the adjuster off for the drags, and we should be able to remove the spool. And well, we've collected a lot of line underneath here. That's always kind of fun. So let's get that out of there. And what I like to do when I'm storing my reels, or after a journey on the water, I like to take a rubber band and tie that off so this doesn't happen. A lot of these older reels didn't have that little clip that comes out to enable you to do that. And there's a lot of products that are commercially available on the marketplace, Velcro sleeves and the like that you can put on there. We're going to save the best for last. We'll do that piece later. These are always an interesting thing with older reels. It's the pitting that goes on inside the reel. This is a bowl reel. It's not a reel where the spool goes over and sheds the water. Rather, it sits inside the reel, and that collects the water in here, and the water really has nowhere to go when it comes inside. So it rests there a while and starts eating away at the finish and the like, and well, that's just one of the consequences of design. But that is not an uncommon design for older reels. The first ones essentially were all this way. So we're going to date this reel 1960s. How's that? Somewhere in the 60s or 70s. Probably could be the 70s because it is a product of Japan, and that seems to be when they were getting their foothold in the industry. All right, the spool is out of the way for now. I put some penetrating oil inside. That helped get rid of some of the dirt that was there. And just clean it off. You can see that there was some older dirt in there. You're not going to restore the finish on this. In fact, I recommend you don't restore the finish on these reels. I kind of let the patina tell the story. And, well, if you like these kinds of stories, if you like learning about fishing reels, the old ones and the young ones and the new ones and the bait casters and the saltwater reels and everything that's kind of fishing reel related, I try to cover all of those different varieties in my channel. If you like that, I ask you to subscribe. If you do subscribe, please use that notification button. It'll let you know when I'm publishing. All right, the 3 screws are out. We should be able to remove the side plate. I'm just trying to think now which reel I just had apart that had an identical one. Well, interestingly enough, that reel happened to be the crack reel that I took apart. Interesting. All right, well, that one was made in France. This is made in Japan. We've removed this. You want to make sure as you service the reel now, here that click is on, you want to take that click off. Push that dog out to the side so that when you remove the main gear by pulling out, you don't pull out or disrupt the anti-reverse dog. Well, we can see on the inside of this that there is a lot of debris in here. It's all dried grease. So I always like to think on these, it's all puddled to one side, which means when this reel was stored, it was stored this way. Gravity worked. It pulled all of the greases down to the point where it couldn't go any further off, and it sat there. So we're going to use the penetrating oil, and we're going to use a cotton swab to get the old greases out of there. I go through an awful lot of paper towels cleaning up. I also use a protective glove that helps me to keep the stuff off my skin for contact. And you just never know what's in this stuff, where the reel has been, what kind of lubricants they've used, all that other stuff. And the old adage about the ounce of prevention: doesn't cost you much per reel to put a glove on. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to use a hard brush now to pull through on the teeth to get all the dirt, and you can see it's coming out, even though I kind of did the cleaning with the spray and the other pieces. And then check all your teeth here. Make sure that they're all uniform. They're not bent or broken. If they were bent and broken, it would warrant replacing the main gear, but I can say at this point you're not going to find one of those unless you find a donor reel. Given that this is the first time I've worked on a match reel, I'm going to say it probably would be pretty hard to find that replacement reel to get that part from. Alright, we're just going to do a nice cleanup here, get rid of that old grease. Mop that off. Clean the case. So now you can swing your anti-reverse dog the other way. Make sure that you pick up that last little bit of grease that was sitting under there. We'll put some oil onto that. Good place to tell you to take pictures. Now, I didn't remove this and didn't knock it off, but that can happen, and you do want to note, for example, how that anti-reverse spring goes. If you happen to be working on one of these, note that your anti-reverse spring anchors on one side on the case here, wraps around this screw, and that other arm comes out of the tensioner here. That controls the tension on your override. And on this side, we have a spring that's located here, wraps around, and you'll see a notch here where it sits to let that one go back. All right, put it into the off position. Take some grease, use fishing wheel grease, onto the axle shaft. You don't grease this. This is the ridge or click ratchet that the anti-reverse dog is going to set in. So you want that dry so that it can anchor itself well. And then we'll use this artist brush, and in this case I'm using Penn Precision Reel Grease to grease this up. Okay, I can set that aside now. I'll get a little bit onto the face where your oscillation block is going to run. I'm going to put that in my parts tray all greased up. We're going to set this aside in the parts tray. And the reason for that is we want to come up top here, take a look at what's going on with that bearing. And I think what we need to do here is we need to get to the other side to remove a clip here that will be holding in the crosswind block. When you do this, notice where you are in this process. So you have a left-handed crank reel, but it's real easy if you're not paying attention to start taking the pieces and parts off, putting them back together again, and then go try to mount the other handle side here. You can do it. The screw patterns are the same, the screws are the same, but you won't get it to work when you go to mesh in. Alright, you wanted to note that there are two long screws, they came out from above, and one short screw came out from the bottom. That's because if you put the long screw in there, it would hit into the axle shaft below. Here's the two tie-down screws I was looking for. I'm going to take those off. Take a picture. Again, if you don't have a schematic, which in this case I do not have, take the picture. I'm taking a picture. I'm using my video camera to do that. Use whatever image capture device you like. Your phone, digital camera, DSLR, whatever works for you. Take those pictures. Alright, those two are out. Notice that you have these little washers that go underneath that. Now you can pull up and out on the axle shaft because that has to get cleaned. And now we can also take out the crosswind block because that needs to get cleaned as well. Well, this says a single ball bearing. I guess we're going to find that out in a moment. Wipe down your axle shaft. That goes into my parts tray. wipe down my crossline block next. Make sure that you clean the inside of that where the axle shaft was. And then I'm going to take these little screws here, put them in the corner of my box so I don't lose them. The washers go with them. Now we can go up top to... Okay, we want to reach this nut now to take that off. You're going to need a deep socket for that. And you're going to need a socket wrench. So let's see if we can break that. So break the nut, and I like to take it off by hand after that. And we have this little keyway underneath here that's holding it all together. So we can bring the whole piece out at this point. You can remove that if you like. And I'm just going to spray the junctions here for the bail. We know it's working, so it doesn't need anything other than a little bit of a spray. Work that in, just make sure it's snapping. There's no need to take off the bail if you're in that situation. Looks like we got a couple of trip levers here. Again, you want to pay attention to this. Let's clean that. Once you remove the bail, your pinion gear is going to come out for cleaning. Looks like we're going through a lot of paper towels on this one, but that's okay. Let's try and clean up the dirt so we can see what we're working with here. Looks like we have a little bit of debris in there. And that, again, when a design like this has no place for the water to go, well, it seeps through, and this is one of the places where the dirt comes through with it. Take your picture here. We're going to be removing this clamp so we can go service the bearing. And when we remove this, you want to make sure that you remember that this is the piece here that's going to go right along the line with the hammer. The handle. This is a tough little screw. Now hopefully I can get this one with my pliers. Usually you can if you can get this swing. There we go. I imagine it's a very small That's also what you need to know. That's your bail trip. So your underneath is going to come and hit that. That will be your bail trip. All right. Take your time. Set that right there. We have 2 more screws that we want to remove. Now this bearing, believe it or not, with all the age on it, still running fine. I didn't hear any burring noises in this reel. All good. And I'm not going to do anything but put those little pieces right there. I'm going to grab the plate. I'm going to wipe the plate down. I noted what the top of the plate was. And let's see if this bearing just simply pushes out. Yep, simply pushes out. We have a top ring. Make sure you clean that off, and we have an open bearing. So I'm just going to flush this bearing first with the penetrating oil. Spin it. Just to kind of remove the dirt. Do that one more time. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do with these bearings. I'm going to put grease in this one because it has that open side. Most of the time I'm just going to oil the bearings. This has the open side and it faces down into the reel, so I'm not worried about the dirt and debris getting into this side. The other side is closed. So I'm going to take my fishing wheel grease and load into that track. Next up, we're going to clean out the tracks on the pinion gear. Use a hard bristle brush to pull through on that. You can use some penetrating oil to break up any of the stuff that matters. You can see how the old grease is coming out. It's kind of a liquid puddle there. Then check your teeth on this. Make sure that they're all clear of the debris. These are. Okay. We can get back to reinstalling then. Well, we know how this came out, so we're going to put it in reverse. This oil, the grease side goes down in the case. The spacer goes on. And if you weren't paying attention, there's two small holes, one large hole. Put the screws into the two small holes. Remember, that pinion gear is going to come in from underneath, so you don't need to wrestle with that right now. Put the other one in. And while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you want to learn more about a particular reel, just leave those questions in the comment section. I will try to answer those for you. All right, that goes in. There's a little bit of dirt left on this one that we couldn't get when that piece was in there. So we'll do that one more time. I'm just running a pick through here. I believe this is also going to be the click for the spool going backwards. All right, this is our piece that we took out with the pliers. We'll hand thread that as much as we can. I'll try and finish it with the pliers there. It's time for the pliers. We got it, we're just about there. And you can see how that glove protects my hand. I kind of wish I could use one on the other hand. Unfortunately, I lose the feel of the tools in that when I put that on there. So, I guess half is better than nothing. And this, for whatever reason, my non-dominant left hand here is the one that seems to take all the grease and dirt anyway. Okay. Healthy dose of grease onto your pinion gear. Let's bring that up and through. Clear some of this off the bench. Bring the rotor back in. Locate your keyway. You're going to need to match your keyway to the little stud that's hanging on in your rotor there, just like that. Rotor nut goes on, and we can kind of get back to reassembling the reel now. So what have we done so far? We've taken the reel completely apart. Every piece came out of it. Well, for the most part, we didn't remove the bail, didn't need to, but otherwise we pretty much have taken care to inspect all the pieces and parts, clean them up, and we saw there was a lot of cleaning going on there. And then, well, re-grease, re-oil, complete the lubrication. It's a good place to test to see how it's running. Look at that. No problem there. Make sure your bail flips. That works too. All right. Remember what we did next. We have our axle shaft, light coating of grease. Bring that through. Remember that you're working on this side for the attachment because you have a left-hand crank reel. The right-hand side of the body is where the mounting goes. And remember, when you're mounting, this goes down. So you got a little bit of dirt pushed through on that pinion. We'll clean that off. Bring the wing in here. A little bit of grease onto our shoulder here. Bring that in, locate your holes for your screws, bring those down or up, however it's going to work for you. And go there. Remember, this is the screw that has the little metal washers on them. So metal washer onto the screw, screw through the block, and anchoring into that shaft. If you're having trouble locating the holes, you can use a pick like that to hold it true on that second. I got lucky there and didn't need that, but that's a way to stabilize that if it's running up and down on your shaft there. All right, another washer. You have the screw. They're in my parts tray, so I know where to find them. I do recommend that as you work on your reels that you have a parts strategy, what you're going to do with the pieces and parts that come off. Bring this one down. At this point, we can take our side plate that does not have anything to do with the handle. This is the one that has the short screw. Remember, short screws going in the bottom. You always need to pay attention when you're pulling off the side plate screws. There's a lot of manufacturers that use different size screws in that side plate, and it's there for a reason. And this one, I noticed that, well, if you put the long screw in down here, you're going to press that right into the cavity where that axle shaft lodges. And, well, that's just not going to work out well. All right, there's your second. One more here below. That's where this one came out of. And we can turn it over and do the other side. Now, there's two ways that you can do the mounting of the side plate. First way you can do it is to put the axle, or I'm sorry, the main gear into the side plate. Try to eyeball it to get it in. Or the second way, the way I generally do it, is find the stud, put that into the housing, or into the slot of that crossline block. Then bring the housing over. And then you can adjust it. That was a little bit of a wrestling match, but that way you're not fiddling around with the... Then just do this for a moment. Make sure your axle shaft is going up and down. I do that on the Mitchells as well. There's a Mitchell 302. Always has that little oscillation gear that you gotta kind of mesh in on the planetary gear. I just find that it's easier doing it that way. Okay, we're in good condition with that. I'm going to spin it just to make sure that it's seated properly. On this side, the screws were the same. I guess this is a lesser distance because of the width of the plate. Trouble getting it started. There we go. So, we're going to call this 1970s, but it's probably late 60s. Made in Japan, I'm going to think, but kind of looks like a compact reel. That's COMPAC, which was a trade reel manufacturer. Not sure who sold the match reel. Most of the time they were designed for export. All right, handle goes on. Clicker goes on. Spins nice. And now we have our spoolless service and we'll be done. Got a lot of UV damage on the spool. That's understandable given the exposure to the sun there. just clean that off. This has a spring ring in it. Find a little tab here. Get the one side out, hold it. It can shoot, just like that. And I'm kind of curious what we'll find inside here. Looks like we have the old leather type washers in here. So we want to definitely get some grease on that. You need to hold. And we have tarnish here. It's not impacted that. On your washers, you definitely want to make sure that you put grease on these. They're permeable, and the worst thing that can happen to them is they can dry out. We're going to put this back on the spool because there's a slot here for that, and it's kind of tough to line them up with the slots. But if you do it this way, alternating your drag washers that you are putting in there, it does work easier. There are two washers that are called keyed washers. They go high and low. Those are the ones with the ridges. The middle one is called an eared washer. Yeah, that's just tarnish. That one goes in the slot here. Top one was well, this one's been hacked up and cut out. I guess at one point in time that washer failed and somebody substituted one. And that's okay, it keeps the wheel going. Alright, we have that. We just need to take our spring and put that back into the cavity. There's a slot inside the spool that accepts this. Alright. All done. Adjuster button on. I'm going to just take a little bit of rod and reel cleaner and complete this. I'm going to use pen rod and reel cleaner. I'm going to use it on a little bit of an old scrubby pad. There's that little button there. It's got some dirt on it, so we might as well take care of that while we're completed the service. Well, there you go. That's learning about the internal workings of a Japanese-made reel. It's called a Master 966. This one's ready to go fishing. With that little sound that everybody loves. A nice smooth operation without the click. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. I have. I've enjoyed working on it and learning about it. That's kind of what this channel is about, teaching you about the reels, teaching you how you can service the reels yourself. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, and everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you, the viewer, for watching, and I want to wish everybody a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.